Now, more of Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the only show directly addressing the problems and solutions for Illinois. Now, from AM 560, here's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project, and this edition of Illinois Rising. And Pat, some sad news this week. Monique Davis ended her illustrious career as a state legislator, announcing over the break, but the letter just being received this week, that she is retiring after 30 grand years of public policy making. On her way out the door in her retirement letter, she praised House Speaker Mike Madigan for his ethical leadership.
He really has been ethical.
I'm not kidding. She did. Now, again, you might want to consider the source. This is the same Monique Davis who was in arrears on the office that she rented from the Chicago Public Schools, property that the CPS owns, in arrears to the tune of $600 grand. Also, the same Monique Davis who took a statue of an African slave from Chicago State University, public property, and would not return it, which...
There's some irony there.
Which in most places, that's considered theft.
Right.
Not here, but... so Monique Davis, waxing philosophic about her time in the General Assembly, being a roll call vote for Mike Madigan. Mike Smitty from the Quad Cities also had some parting thoughts. Mike Smitty, one of the seats that House Republicans picked up, Tony McCombie defeating him, Republican challenger in the Quad Cities. Smitty, a union-backed Madigan roll call vote who lost.
He got waxed, too, Dan.
Yeah, he got, right. And you know, in south of I-80, you had a Trump effect because Trump rolled when you got outside of Cook and the Collars in this state. Point of order, a lot of people don't appreciate this. I know we've mentioned it on this show, but it bears repeating. Donald Trump won 91 of the 102 counties in Illinois. That was 12 more than Mitt Romney won 4 years earlier. It said something about the diversity of the state. It also says something about the concentration of those afflicted with Stockholm Syndrome and where they reside.
And Mike Smitty, by the way, is famous because he plays video games on the
Candy
House
Crush.
floor. Candy Crush.
He was one of the Candy Crush legislators, along with Kate Clunan from Kankakee Bourbonnais.
Also crushed.
Right, also defeated. They both got Candy Crushed. And so here's Mike Smitty reflecting on his time and legislative initiatives that Governor Rauner has proposed, like redistricting reform and term limits, and that ethical, as Monique Davis terms him, House Speaker Mike Madigan.
As for term limits, forget about it.
It's not about getting rid of your local legislators. It's all geared towards getting rid of Speaker Madigan. And in some respects, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think he's kind of outlived his usefulness in Springfield.
Is he right? Because I know that's the popular opinion.
I love when you do Sam Kinison.
Thank you.
You're actually really good at Sam Kinison.
Thank you.
And he's dead. So there's a vacuum to fill there.
Yes.
On sort of,
I'll be
moral outrage comedy.
Back to school, too. So what about Mike Smith? Is he right that the term limits proposal that's been advanced by the governor is just about Mike Madigan?
I think there's a big part of that. By the way, when I think of Smitty, I think of Churchill and Thatcher. Churchill, Thatcher, Monique Davis, and Smitty, the great politicians of
the great statesmen of our time. Yeah.
I think that it certainly is part of the reason for that, and I think it's a good way to sell it. I just think term limits are extremely popular with people because they don't like politicians, and recycling them out of there is a good thing. Like from my perspective, every time I see John McCain on TV, I cringe. I mean, he's been in the Senate. Is there no one else in the state of Arizona who could be a United States senator? I mean,
he has had challengers, and
I know, but
Republican and Democrat.
But he should just go, right? So I don't think it's just about Madigan. I think that's a part of it, and I think it's a good policy.
And yeah, I mean, for me, Smitty, people, it's not about their local legislators. It's interesting for him to say that as a local legislator who was just defeated at the ballot box. So
that's because Madigan must have pulled some funding when he knew it was over, and Smitty's still raw about it.
Well, but I mean, to Smitty's counterpoint, his constituents just said, no, actually, it is in part about our local legislators because we want a new one.
Correct.
So, it can happen. It's not going to happen necessarily in Madigan's little hamlet of a district. But then there's this other matter afoot. This idea that, there's an independent-minded Democrat. We had to pretend, we had to endure people, even including some Republicans, and certainly the Chicago Press Corps, pretending that our friend Jack Franks from McHenry County, who left the General Assembly, is now the McHenry County Board Chairman. Well, he was an independent Democrat. No, he wasn't. It's a Madigan roll call vote. Now we have a new one, Scott Drury from Lake Forest, this smug little prig, former prosecutor, who is pretending he's an independent Democrat and may even challenge Mike Madigan for Speaker. Should that be taken seriously? Is there any possibility you're going to see Democrats break ranks because of the sentiment that Mike Smitty expressed that, yeah, maybe he's outlived his usefulness? You're going to see Democrats break ranks and put Madigan's speakership in jeopardy when the vote comes?
So the answer to that is no. It's clearly no. I like the idea of talking about it, and it's not bad to promote that concept, but it's never going to happen because the powers that be that control the General Assembly are Mike Madigan and then the special interests that fund Mike Madigan. And so those special interests, unions, everybody else, trial lawyers, they're not interested in Mike Smitty being bipartisan. They're not interested in Mike Smitty or whoever, Scott Drury, whoever it is, being sort of a centrist Democrat, which, like you said, he's not. No one's interested in this. So this is just, fodder to talk about politically that is never, ever going to happen.
That's right. And so why we have some Republicans tilting at these windmills, I don't really understand. The narrative, if you recall from the campaign, is connect the dots. Your local legislator in Eastern DuPage or Northwest Cook or Lake or Will or McHenry may pretend to be this independent-minded Democrat when he or she is in the home district, but then he or she goes to Springfield and he or she is a roll call vote for Mike Madigan. And that's what they are, and that's what they'll demonstrate themselves to be when they vote to reelect Mike Madigan as Speaker, proving the argument that was made by the governor and PACs like mine in support of challenger candidates in the general. So let them be who they are, and let's believe them when they demonstrate who they are. Worrying about trying to cajole one Democrat for Scott Drury to pretend like there's some rift there, like they're not all just bricks in Mike Madigan's wall in the House. What's the point of that? Let's brighten the lines of distinction, not blur them.
There is no point to that. And this is a good example of why those larger, and it's less than it was, but large House majority for Mike Madigan, what it does, because on some controversial votes, if he doesn't need the votes, he lets those folks from those more contested areas that are deemed to be more centrist or conservative off the hook on some of these really much tougher votes. And that's all that's happening. And then they say, I'm opposed to it.